I've always wanted to be a teacher since I was a child. When I was in high school, I developed a love for languages, and I decided to major in French when I went to college.
When I was graduating from Flagler College, my undergraduate exit interview with my faculty advisor, she asked me what I was going to do when I left, and I'm like, I don't have any idea. I had degrees in computer science and philosophy and religion, and no idea what I wanted to do. And she suggested that I should think about teaching.
I have always loved education. As a young child, I would play teacher in my basement, and as a nursing professional, I was always given extra roles as a nurse in critical care to help teach others.
Dr. Bill Slaughter at UNF, he was kind of my mentor during my master's program, and I learned a lot from him, and so I think I decided to start teaching because I kind of wanted to repay that back. I wanted to do for other students what he did for me.
One professor or teacher in particular was my high school accounting instructor, Marcia Manning. She made the subject so interesting by making it really hands-on. I enjoyed the class so much that I actually changed my major from pharmacy to accounting.
I come from a family of teachers. My mom is still a teacher. My brother became a teacher. My younger brother is now a teacher. I said to myself, I don't want to be a teacher. But I ended up taking a job teaching English in South Korea and ended up finding my passion. So I have to really credit my mom for that. She has not only been a teacher in her field, but she's been a teacher for me and certainly a model in that regard.
So I really do apply many of the techniques that I learned from my own study habits during that time, as well as the patience and understanding to my own students that I'm working with.
In graduate school, when we did some presentations, a few of the instructors kind of asked me if I had done teaching before. So I kind of took those thoughts that things that they had told me about being a presenter in class and taking that into the classroom as a profession.
So what I try to do in my classes is have a variety of activities. I might start off by teaching something in a very direct instructional fashion, but then I always try to have some kind of interactive activity to take into account the different learning styles of all the students in the class.
I have to empower the students to become self-professionals at this point. How are we going to present as nurses? And so I have to be the guide on the side and encourage them to work with self-confidence and self-responsibility within that student role.
I think I make it a point to get to know the students and learn their names and kind of learn the things that they're comfortable with in terms of how they act in class, how they answer questions, how they respond to prompts. Just really knowing the students on a sort of a personal level, I think that really engenders learning.
I think I use a lot of pop culture. I use a lot of contemporary sources. Before the course evals, I like to have just a general discussion the last day of class and ask them what works, what doesn't work. A lot of times they provide suggestions I hadn't thought of, or something that may have worked for a while ends up not working, so I change it.
Well, one thing I do in particular would be the use of the clickers. And it's just so fun to see the excitement on their faces when they get the answer correct. And they really study really hard because they don't want to be that one person that picked the wrong answer on the screen. So I really think not only is it fun, but it helps them to get really prepared for the material.
I think it's very important that you have to gauge where they are in their academic careers and help them understand where their strengths and their weaknesses are, as well as their interests and things they're not interested in. So I always try to, in my classrooms, have them be honest with themselves about who they are as a person, as a student, and as a career-minded person.
Well, I have the privilege of working in a computerized classroom, so I'm able to present lessons to students and activities so that they can not only build their language skills but also computer skills. And I find that students get more engaged when they are empowered to use technology to find information themselves rather than the traditional lecture approach I allow them to use those resources that are available to them in the room to investigate new information and to make progress in their goals.
I like my students to apply the material that they learn in the classroom, so I teach to their learning styles, and I want them to use real-life applications and give examples in the class based on the material that we're talking about each day.
I also try to incorporate assignments where students are writing about their learning experiences, and from those I can see things that students find interesting and engaging, and things that students find too difficult.
A lot of it is sort of an ongoing thing. On a daily basis, I'm paying attention to how students are responding to what I'm saying. I'm trying to see if I can see understanding with what I'm doing, and I'll adapt how I teach and what I teach based upon that sort of constant feedback loop that I get from students.
I also try to change the class every time I teach it. I try to rework the class. It may not be entirely new, but the teaching has to always evolve, I think, and out of every semester the course evolves, hopefully for the better.
As nurses, we need to be advocates for patients. We sometimes see them in the toughest day of their life, and it is something that, as a nursing professor, I have to stimulate the students while promoting a high degree of personal responsibility within that student role.
And I see a lot of students follow me from Accounting 1 all the way through to managerial. And I really can tell that I'm being effective when I see a progression in their grades and their enthusiasm about the subject.
Feedback. I think feedback is very important in the classroom, whether it's meeting with students one-on-one or during group projects or group meetings in the classroom setting. But I think during a classroom time when teaching, it's watching the body language, seeing when the light bulb's going on.
Really, every summer I reevaluate how I approach my courses. I try to make changes that come from the students' feedback that I get through the surveys I administer in D2L. So I try to eliminate work that may be considered unnecessary.
One of the things that I see is that students take this information that we do in the classroom and they take it home. They come back and say that they've tried something out that we did in the classroom, that they've done with their family, they've done it or tried it out with their friends, and how it worked.
Changes that I've made over the years, I do more interactive activity, more activities where students are responsible for using the materials in a more meaningful way than just memorizing or spitting back information to me.
I incorporate more technology in the classroom itself, and in terms of what the students experience outside of the class. For almost all my classes, I use an online component for homework where they can do the homework problems, get instant feedback on whether they're right or wrong, and get extra help through the website that's associated with the textbook.
I've actually reduced lectures. Now I've never been a fan of lecturing too much, but now I've reduced them even smaller to what I call mini lectures, which are usually 5 to 10 minutes tops. I've constructed courses, I've changed, we do a lot more work in class now. I have the opportunity to use the computer labs in most of the 1101s. So every student has a computer, so they write. So there's always a lot more group work, I think.
So the changes that I've made is incorporating our diverse student population. I am facilitating their transition into the nursing profession.
Well, one big change that I've made recently is to start requiring pre-lecture assignments. I went to a professional development class on flipped classrooms on Professional Development Day, and it really taught me that we need to spend more of our class time explaining and practicing rather than lecturing.
But the changes that I've made is being more comfortable and encouraging the students to be comfortable with who they are as students.
I try to reduce the amount of lecture time, because in a language classroom the teacher really shouldn't spend a lot of time in front of the room speaking and lecturing. It really should be more about facilitating dialogue and meaningful conversation in the room with the language learners.
Well, I keep that open door policy and communication open. I want them to be able to come to me with questions about class and anything outside of class that may relate to class or something completely different. I find that sometimes students are intimidated by coming to my office or calling or emailing, but when they kind of can feel that it's not going to be an intimidating situation, and they kind of see their instructor sometimes on their level, it's more inviting for them to be able to communicate with instructors.